Okay, thanks, Todd. We'll call the council meeting to order. And just to remind people, we have 11 o'clock RCMP delegation, 11:30 a public hearing, and 1 o'clock delegation. And also today at the end of this meeting, our negotiating committee has another meeting, just so people know. And it's today, Brian, at 12 o'clock, we have, and Ariana, we have a picture, correct? With
No, that's the budget meeting, next Tuesday, July 28th.
Right, thank you. Okay, perfect. All right, meeting to order. No one is excused. So the minutes for July 9th, is any concerns or adoption of? Anne-Marie moves adoption. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any post-agenda items today? Seeing none, I ask for adoption of the agenda, please. Ellen? All in favor? And our question period, notice of motion, is now, and so we'll take a Todd, is there anyone on that you are aware of?
Well, according to the numbers, we have 6 people viewing our council meeting today, which is important to note that it's one higher than the MPC meeting. So I'm not going to say it has anything to do with the chair, but
all right. Well, I think that our public or anyone wanting to be involved at the question period part should know that if they're not on right now or trying to get on and do, we will take their question later, but we'll move on past our public hearings and into past our delegations to Todd. I think we can go right to your report. I'm reading this agenda, right?
Well, that works for me if it works for everybody else.
Item 10.1, Todd, take her away.
All right, thank you. Well, it's been a great year. I think everybody knows that weeds and grass tend to grow when you got the rain, and we certainly got it this year. So it's always tough on these years to keep up, but I think they become really good control years. We did go out, we sprayed the 2020 shoulder pull roads to kill the roadside grass before construction. So that was done a couple weeks ago. I think they're hoping to start that construction pretty soon. It just helps when the above ground material is kind of dried up a little bit. It blows away a little easier when they're doing the actual work. And then we hit the 2019 shoulder pull roads with broadleaf chemical just to kind of hold back some of the weeds that were growing there and allow that grass to get a little more established. And then we did hit the 2018 roads as well, so that's kind of nice. The extra grading this year, just because of all that rain, we haven't had to do much of the road top spraying for vegetation control. But I think we'll probably start doing that again here right away. We did a little bit last week, and then I think we'll probably hit a little bit more once the grader guys have had a chance to get over everything. As far as the north side of the #1 highway spraying, we finished that on July 9th, which I thought was phenomenal that we finished 10 days earlier than last year, even though we had all that rain and wind. But the guys really pushed through. I know they had some pretty long days, but when you get as far up as Gem, if you don't have a long day, it ends up being a lot more driving than spraying. So we did roadside mowing. We expect to be done the north side of the number one here probably in 2 weeks. The crew sure seems to fly through those roads. So, and then I think I was doing a little bit of driving. I think with Hubie and Jane there on Monday, and just in general. And we're certainly going to have to do a second pass this season on most of the roads. And I talked a little bit about the weed control season, and the weed inspection season is no different. We have a great crew of seasonal vegetation management technicians, and I think between them and Catherine, they're a huge benefit to our program. 3 returning, 1 new one. They've just been doing some amazing work, talking to landowners, making plans. It's been phenomenal. Bow River, the river itself has been high the whole season. They actually finished our weed control program on the Bow River yesterday. I think at about 3:30, I heard Tina back in the office here. So that's good. It sounded like chamomile populations are still remaining relatively low, but many of the other weeds that we weren't focused on for years have kind of gained a little bit of a foothold down there, and I think we've spent more time on them than chamomile in recent years. So we did our judging on Monday. Me and Hubie and Jane Bellward was our fantastic guest judge again. I guess we know now, and I've talked to everybody. So Ryan and Shannon Andrews were our first place winner. Sorry, I better consult my notes here. Reed and Gay Crapo were our second place winner, and Gloria Schuett was our third place winner for rural beautification. So we had 8 nominations this year. Everybody agreed to have us in their yard doing the judging. It was an absolutely fantastic day. I think we got back at about 6:30, Hubie, something like that. And we couldn't have had a much better day. It was a long day, but it was so much fun. And obviously everybody does such a wonderful job in their yards. It was great. I think just to move on from that, the rental equipment has had a really good year. The drills especially, they're still rolling. We have all of our drills are running right now, which is not typical for this time of year. They're usually washed up and put away down below. But I think everything that could be seeded is getting seeded this year, which is fantastic. We did, and I guess maybe you guys don't know, but sometimes we go outside of our county with the drills. So what we do with that is when we get those requests, we wait till all of our ratepayers are done with it. Then we'll allow it to go outside of our county, and we charge those people a full delivery cost, which is cost recovery on our equipment and time. So we actually, when Cypress County and special areas kind of got out of their programming, it really it put a lot of pressure on those guys that are right close to us that didn't have any opportunity to rent a piece of equipment. So we've been trying to help them out if we can and when we can. So that's helped our numbers a little bit, and I think those guys really appreciate it. Strychnine, I think if you read my report, this is a pretty impressive year for sales. 2,851 bottles, and that was I guess that would be, I think, on the 13th or something I wrote this, and I believe we've sold 3 or 4 cases since then. So guys are still battling. Guys are preparing themselves for next spring, which is nice. So I think we'll have a good control season next year. And phostoxin as well. We did have 2 purchasers. You'll see that's 25 flasks. That's about 20 more than we've ever sold in one single year. So that's, and most of that is for gopher control as well. So magpie traps, and some skunk traps. As far as skunk traps go, in the Scandia to Rolling Hills area, we actually partner with a few other municipalities in the south to do some rabies vector monitoring. So we have Brad down there doing some trapping actually right now, trapping some skunks and some raccoons on our southern border. And then if there's anything suspect for rabies, he sends it away. Emerson Bridge had a slow start. We put our own restrictions in place, and those decisions were made, but I think we've had a really great influx of campers in the last few weeks. From what Chris is telling us, it's like a long weekend every weekend now. Kind of starting on Thursday, the place is getting pretty full. So that's kind of nice to see. It's certainly nice to see some positive comments. I know we had a few people that have reached out after the fact, and I think we shared one with you guys. And that's always nice to see. We don't often, or maybe don't always, hear the positive comments. So it's nice to get them once in a while and share. I think Hamlet maintenance again, wow, what a year. This year, it's been a struggle to stay on our schedule. This is the time of year where we start to stretch out those mowing passes, and we haven't been able to do that yet. So the crew has been rocking. We made the decision to move to 10-hour days, and we didn't have a whole lot of 10-hour days. They were always a little bit extra and a little bit more. So that's good. I think the crew really appreciated it, and we certainly appreciate all their extra efforts. What do we got? Yeah, we had some soil movement down in Division 4. I think we had soil movement throughout our county during the, kind of since February, but really had a few fields in that Division 4 that needed a little extra help this spring. There's this, I guess spring and summer. We ended up lending out our no-till drill to try to rectify one problem, and then worked with another landowner who already had complete control of what he wanted to do and was making that one happen. So that's good. We're happy that those are in place and the soil's not moving. And exciting news, we did receive some CAP grant funding. We put in 2 applications, one for Ag Pest Act surveys, and then one for our Bull River and EID weed inspection. And we received both grants, so we have them for the next 3 years, and I think they total over the 3 years, I think it's about $140,000. So that's kind of a nice little boost. It's stuff that we were certainly doing anyways, or going to do anyways. But when they removed our money from the Ag Service Board grant, to try to compensate for some of that loss and still do the great work we're doing, we had to request a little extra support. So happy that made it our way. And as far as, I guess, club route surveying goes, I think are near done. We've got 5 or 6 fields that we want to go back and look at. Some stuff that kind of looks suspect, but this year was a weird year with water laying around. There's a lot of fields that might look a little bit off, but they're very easily attributed to low spots that have collected too much water over the last month. But yeah, I think 5 or 6 fields to go back and take a look at, some close to other club route fields, which, would make it, suspect in that way anyways. So good to see. And then BRR surveys, which is bacterial ring rotting potatoes, starts this week, probably tomorrow or Monday, depending on how hot it is. And if we can convince Catherine and Tina to walk through 2-foot tall potato fields. And then grasshoppers we start in August. So that's what I got for you.
Questions for Todd? Thank you. Excellent. Brian.
Surprise, I have a question for you, Todd. Mostly about during like a day like this week where we've had these heat warnings. Do you manage your staff a little different, the seasonal people or your other staff, as far as around those hot days, so they're not out there, not subjected to those high temperatures, or do they want to, or not really?
We have a wonderful crew of people that are just willing to do what they have to do to get that job done. So, I mean, we have lots of availability for them to take water with them. We have some stuff in the shop if they need some extra. We have the water coolers, all that kind of jazz. And then even within just our job hazard assessments on every job, we always recommend, when you overexert yourself, or if you overexert yourself, to make sure you take the right amount of breaks to continue to do the job safely. And I think they do a pretty good job of that. We also try to limit maybe some of our weed whipping this time of year, or really space it out. So we have 3-person crew. They typically take 2 mowers and a couple weed whips. So then they get an opportunity to go back and forth from different jobs. But after that, I don't know, the river crew, Brian, if it's 35 on the top of the riverbanks, it's, 38 or 39 down below. We've just drink lots of water, take the breaks when you need them, and continue on.
Other questions? Don't see any other questions, Todd, so we'll take a motion. Wayne, did you have a question? Yeah? Or he's moving?
I noticed in like quite a few other municipalities that a lot of Downey Brome. Are we the only ones that really care about it? Or because I go to MD at Tabor and there's a lot of it there. And then here we kind of seek it out.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say we're the only ones that care, Wayne. But somebody well before me had the foresight to know that Downey Brome was going to be a problem. And we've been on this battle for, 30 plus years now. Other municipalities only started this battle in 2010 when it hit the Weed Control Act. So I guess we're a little bit ahead of people in that regard, and our populations are lower too. So that helps. And in your neck of the woods, I think we have some great landowners that are very conscientious about Downey Brome, which is nice to have because they tend to monitor areas that we don't often see, just through their field operations and, whether it's checking cows or whatever, they see things that we wouldn't necessarily see. So it's nice to have everybody on board. But yeah, so like I say, I don't think other people don't care. They just haven't had the opportunity to fight it for as long as we have.
Other questions? Could we get a motion to accept Todd's report? Brian moves. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And we will go on to administrative business, the tax sale. Which is pretty straightforward, I think. We always do this every year and propose a date for it. So need to, Clarence?
I think all we need is the date, and they're suggesting November 4th at 10 a.m. and I'd like to make that motion.
Thanks, Clarence. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We received a letter from the City of Cold Lake re the criminal code amendment, and it is on the agenda for information purposes or for any other thoughts people might have. Something, Lionel.
Well, I really wonder whether this is something the municipality should get involved in. We have many residents in the municipality that would agree with it and some that don't. So we're supposed to represent the municipality as a whole. I would suggest we just take this for information and then just carry on.
All right. I have no problem with that. I think it is a personal sort of issue. Any other comments? All right, we'll move along to our councillor payment sheets. Item 11.3. Any questions regarding them? Anne-Marie?
A motion to accept.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. checks for payment over 350,000. I don't believe there were any. So we're at the payment register. Ellen?
There is one in my agenda. We have Acon Transportation West.
Yeah, thank you. I'm there now too.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to the payment. Questions? Or acceptance of it? Kelly? Kelly is moving acceptance of the payment register. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any requests for function of council? Seeing none, we'll move on to the municipal services business. There's a tender award for gravel plow truck. Mark, are you on the line? On the scene? We could move on. Does anyone have any committee reports while we're waiting on Mark?
Mark's coming.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mark.
Yeah, so the department went and tendered out a replacement for a gravel/plow truck. So in our organization, those trucks perform double duty, multitasking units. Bids came in. Yeah, can honestly say that we did not predict the prices would come in as nearly as high as what they did based on previous tendering. And for council's information, the last replacement was back in 2015, and that unit came in at $282,000. So prices have jumped significantly in 5 years. Some of that, we look to move to a stainless steel sander. So hopefully we can get a longer term out of that. Maybe we don't have to buy the complete sander unit and everything in the future. We just have to replace the truck. Fully automatic transmission, looking to move to that, away from standard transmissions for ease of use by any driver. Also keeping the focus on the driving, not so much on the shifting while driving, and navigating the plowing intersections and corners a little bit easier. Proper shift points and better fuel economy. And then we're looking to get a little bit ahead of the game perhaps, but there's a new standard coming out for plow trucks that they may be regulated very soon to have a flashing blue light on top of them for emergency service vehicles and stuff. Plow trucks are being considered in that kind of realm of things. So to have the wiring installed right now for the potential future of that is something else that we required in the tender that may have contributed to some of the cost increase. Our understanding was if you look to outfit a truck with that wiring after the fact, it's going to cost you probably $10,000 or more to get it done, which to me is gross, but it is what it is. So evaluation of the units was completed. The Viking Sibs Western Star truck proposed by R. James Management Group Limited out of Calgary, Alberta, was the highest rated truck. And with that, we come with a funding shortfall of approximately $41,000, as you see in the request for decision. So asking for that additional funding adjustment to get this replacement truck ordered. It sounds if everything were to go according to plan, the earliest we would receive this truck is the middle of December. So we will already be into our plowing season, unfortunately. So we wish we would have got this tender out earlier in the year, so we would have had it for the beginning of plow season, but that just was not the case. So I can answer I'll attempt to answer any questions that council may have with respect to this.
Mark, what happened to the old truck now?
The old truck, those will get turned back over to auction for resale. And, you know, sometimes there's private companies that pick those up that run contracts and whatnot. We're just 10 years down the road with that truck, a little bit more, and we need that reliability on our paved roads when winter comes to keep our roads open, right?
So it just goes to local auction or to a bigger auction, like?
No, we'll send those off to Mitch or Allen or somebody up in Calgary there for the bigger auctions. We just don't have the market demand down here for any of that.
Right. Brian.
Thanks, Mark. Madam Reeve, my question is mostly in regards to the budget, and do we have to do a budget adjustment because it was identified that we had allocated $300,000 for this rather than the $341 that's anticipated? And as a second part of that, we're really not going to get the snow until after December, so you don't have to worry about it.
Don't jinx me. I appreciate that. I will respect that if that truly happens. It's just additional funding through the machinery equipment fund that Matt would do with that. So I believe his the budget adjustment terminology is something he's trying to do away with, and it's just approval of additional funding.
Okay. Thank you. I will move approval after discussion takes place.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Wayne?
Just, Mark, what was the mileage on that truck? That's all I would like to know.
Oh, geez, I thought I wrote that in there. I don't even have it open. I'm kind of...
No, you did. I read it somewhere.
Just a second here. I'll have it.
215.
Yeah.
Yeah, 215,000 kilometers, 5,448 hours on it. And that's about par for the course with some of our units. So, I mean, we've been pushing 10 years or better with the replacement on these trucks, but when it comes down to gravel hauling services and supporting plowing of paved roads, the reliability is really the thing that we're after with this. So catching them at those key points anyway.
Any other questions? If not, how many of you are in favor of Brian's motion to approve with the budget adjustment? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. All right. Moving on, committee reports. Did everyone receive the Joint Services Committee report? Notes? Yes? Good. Any other committee reports? Meetings that haven't been circulated? Don't think so. Information items, financial information package, and other updates are part of our meeting, and this is quite scary because we're just going to have to move to our 11 o'clock things, I think, is the next item on our agenda. And we're a little bit early. Wondering if wonder if our own Municipal enforcement, if John?
Yes, I'm here. If you, yeah, I
Oh.
can present. Yeah.
Well, that would be awesome, John, if you could do your report a little bit early. I'm not sure if any of the others are online yet, but we'll go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Good morning, Council. Yes, my report is for the period of April through to June. Our department during these months focused on speed, motorcycle safety, commercial passenger vehicle safety as well. In this time period, we issued 60 warnings and 40 tickets. Also, our department assisted RCMP and fire in 3 incidents for traffic control on motor vehicle collisions, and then for fire, it was dealing with fire again, but with the traffic control component. Our department investigated 76 files during this time period. As well, our department does continue to utilize the speed signs to help educate the motorists and to collect data when needed on traffic patterns relating to speeding. I've enclosed the report to provide further information on these tickets and warnings that were issued by our department and also the case files that were investigated. That concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Questions, anyone? Brian?
I noticed you didn't spend any time in Div 9. The only place that had any, they didn't have any reports. So there's lots of lawbreakers out there, from what I've heard.
In Div 9, oh. I can say I drove through Div 9, but yes, I didn't find any, I guess, any lawbreakers. So either did my officer. So
I mean, I thought I was going to win the award. Div 8 only had 1, but I only had 9, so I couldn't claim victory.
Yeah.
Just got to go to the rest of the county to find all the criminals.
Yeah.
It's just fine if you stay out of Div 9. We're
okay.
We're happy. A general question, John, with
sure.
The COVID-19 world, is there anything that's sort of different from your point of view or perspective or work?
Well, one thing I believe Mark may have already mentioned, in our world, we don't at this point anymore have the Public Health Act. We did have it during the so-called crisis period when it was an emergency. At this point, the government has deemed that we do not need it. So that has changed our world in the way that for our department, where if we see something, reporting it to the RCMP, whereas before we may have been obviously taking further action. In saying that, I do know that the campgrounds and beaches, back to the comment earlier about hot weather, are definitely packed and busy. So I have noticed that in my patrols. But yeah, like I say, our world, kind of changed for reporting purposes. We just let RCMP know if we see any infractions on the COVID.
Lionel?
Hi, John. I'm just noticing you have very few tickets for sprinkling on roads. What are farmers being more abiding by the bylaw today, or is that or are you not looking?
Good question, Lionel. I don't believe, from what I'm seeing and hearing from reporting, that we are getting the numbers that we used to. In fairness to the farmers, like I'm going to give the farmers credit. I believe that they are being more attentive to where the pivots are spraying, because we're definitely going by getting calls. We're not getting the call volume from the public reporting it. So I'm going by that, saying it hasn't been as many call volumes like we've had in the past.
Hubie and Anne-Marie?
So, John, did you catch those 2 dogs that were at large? And what did you do with them?
I didn't, Hubie.
Okay.
I have to admit, I'm maybe not a great dog whisperer. I sometimes, if the dog's trying to catch him, I have to be honest and say I'm not always successful.
Pretty hard to get them.
Sometimes they are. Some don't really want to come over and approach us, and then they take off for the back 40, I call it, and leave us. So no,
Okay, thanks.
It wasn't successful.
Anne Marie, you're good? All right. Okay. Thank you, John. We'll move on to Sebastian, I see, is on the line from Bassano, our Corporal Andrews. And we'll let him get organized for his report. Just happens to be the next enforcement person that we see on our screen, Sebastian. So whenever you're ready, you can give your report. Yeah, we can hear you.
Couldn't figure out how to turn on the mic. All right, so we are now the end of the first quarter of 2020. And so I had sent everyone our first quarter progress report. I'm just going to read from the report, and then I'll continue further with any notable occurrences that happened in this quarter and the second quarter. So with community engagement was one of the priorities that was chosen in our last meeting for your guys' residents. Obviously, with COVID-19, things like school participation is it's impossible. There's no actual schools open, as well as in-person meets weren't allowed. So we thought of a creative way to reach youth as well as our residents by doing online video sessions. So we did 19 youth engagement sessions, communities of Bassano, Gem, Rosemary, the County of Newell. And what we did is we did reading sessions for the young ones as well as theme months. So for 1 week, we did bike safety. So a lot of the residents were talking about kids riding around with no bikes, and it was being dangerous because they were crossing roads. So we did a whole safety. We did a video with one of my members, told them about helmets, stuff like that. As well as we did a career presentation, water safety and sun safety. This month, actually, we're doing cultural awareness themes. So to do that. So we did 19 of those. We did 14 event participations, 10 birthday parades. We participated in Rosemary and Bassano's graduation parades. We helped, did like a golf cart procession, so we led the front and the back. We also did a couple of videos for some of the school online. They had a law enforcement week, so I had some of my members do videos about what it means to be a member and what you need to do. We had our first town hall with Hassar, and we did one with Bassano. We did it digitally online. It wasn't that well attended online, so we're going to try to do a questionnaire, and we're hoping to do another town hall in person when some of the COVID restrictions start relaxing. Safe roads was also one of our priorities for liquor and impairment. We didn't track it because with COVID, we weren't limited to the amount of actual traffic stops we did. Everyone in the public as well as our members safe. It increased greatly our proactive patrols of rural property. We know residents may have been fearful during COVID that members weren't out as much, so we increased that by almost %. We did 240 proactive rural crimes, and as I explained in our last prior meetings, that's at least 45 minutes in our rural areas, and we find not only does that keep residents safe, but it does help if car thieves and stuff, they see us there more often, they may pick a different spot. As you know from last year, we had a huge increase in copper thefts, but we had increased our intelligence program. But based on that, we were able to actually find hotspots. And what hotspots is basically locations that most of these crimes were occurring. So we actually identified these areas and increased our patrols in that area. And we did 104 of those patrols as well. Priority calls, we actually had 5 sudden deaths during COVID. Those are either suicides or natural causes. The vast majority were suicides. We did 6 MHA transports. So with, I believe Brooks too, but Bassano in our area, we don't have a designated health facility. So under the Mental Health Act, when we do form someone or the hospital, we have to bring them to a designated facility. That is either Medicine Hat or Oakland. So we're starting to track that current climate, and we did do 6 the end of June 30th, and so far in July we've already done another 3 of them. So they are increasing. Tracked our persons crimes. Now, when I say 10 charges late, that doesn't mean we only had 10 files with assault or sexual assault harassment. That's just where we had 10 where we could actually lay charges. We did notice an increase in persons crimes, but we noticed an overall decrease in calls for service. Last quarter, we had 389 calls for service. This first quarter, we had 200 calls for service. I think there's less people on the road. There's less people leaving their homes. With the CERB payments, I think that had a positive impact and a decrease in property crime, because it's a lot easier for some of these guys just to get that CERB payment as opposed to risking jail time and stuff for actually breaking into properties. That's just, that's just what the numbers, it seems like. Overall, we did get 4 impaired drivers off the road. One of them was in the middle of daytime in a school zone. Really, our report, we are really trying to increase our mental health ability by trying to give more resources. We're with the County of Newell Learning Center. I'm probably saying that the wrong way, where we're going to start giving out handouts to people we deal with. So a lot of times we find with mental health and some crime is that there's a lack of education and literacy. So Jackie Seeley has gave us some cards, and we're going to partner with them and see how that works. We did have a major incident where we had a stolen vehicle that was traveling through Brooks, Bassano, and in Gleason. We did apprehend the vehicle, and we actually ended up having a high-risk takedown where the female had an actually firearm. I was actually there on scene talking to the female with the firearm. Luckily, one ended up being safe. We were able to talk her down. We did get a bunch of chain crack, weapons, knives, and stuff like that. So that was a good win. We were able to get the vehicle back to the property owner. They were from Saskatchewan, not from our area. Other than that, that's really where we're at right now with Bassano. We look forward to the next quarter to increase our patrols and continue to provide the best service we can to our residents.
Thanks, Sebastian. Does anybody have any questions? Wayne?
You mentioned suicides. Do you think that suicides have increased since COVID has taken over, or is it about the same as your normal?
For our area, it's about the same. We usually have around this number around the summertime. Wouldn't be able to comment on all the overall and detachments. We've seen an increase in mental health transports, but we haven't seen an increase in suicides compared to last year.
Kelly.
Good morning, Sebastian. So as I was growing up, the place to go during the summer was the swimming pool. I'm just wondering where all the youth are this summer and how they're managing this strange state of affairs without a pool to go to.
Well, we have, I have children myself, so the pool closing definitely was an effect on us as well. So what we've noticed is a lot of kids just out and about on their bikes. Even my kids are on their bike all day. We noticed for a bit they were trying to hang by the train tracks, but we've since stopped that because it was a little bit dangerous for them. But honestly, just on their bikes all day. And I think a lot of kids are on their tablets a lot, quite a bit. So that could be positive and negative depending on what you believe in. I do think the communities have been doing their best at giving them kits. Like one of our themes we give every week, we give them a kit where they can work on crafts and stuff. But yeah, it'll be nice when things start opening up sports and activities for them. There's definitely a lack of things for them right now.
Yeah, I don't even see a lot of uptake on the tennis court or places like that they could social distance and still be active. So yeah, it's very interesting times.
Those have been quite empty.
Anne Marie.
Just wanted to say thank you for the work you do and how you're focusing in on mental health. You know, we heard a lot about that lately in the news, national, international, so it's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Sebastian. And your common sense approach, and we've talked lots, I think, as adults with some of the things that have gone on with the escalation of incidents as a result of approaches that aren't appropriate. So we appreciate the approach that you have. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move to Kendra. I see that our Safe Communities facilitator is on our screens now. So thank you, Sebastian, and please stay involved and listen and question Kendra if need be. Hi, Kendra. Good morning. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'll just read off my report. I'll try not to stick word to word so I take too long, but as far as community relations, I forgot to include on this, but we did do a lot of those birthday parades at year-end parades. We actually made it out, our officers made it out to like Rolling Hills and a couple of those schools that reached out for officer presence at their parades, which was really great because we want to appear more in those smaller towns that don't have a detachment there. Otherwise, we're pretty excited that some of the health regulations are easing just slightly in regards to COVID, because we were able to reschedule our appearance at the Bow Slope auction, which we are doing tomorrow, which we're really excited about. It'll be myself, Corporal Argue, Hubie, and we've reached out to one of the conservation officers. We're just waiting to hear back, but we're hoping to have them with us as well. On other notes, Super Kids Initiative has been back, and we've had a lot more RCMP engagement this year around, which is really, really awesome. It began at the beginning of July, and basically, for the people that don't know, Super Kids is a positive ticketing program that the county peace officers, city peace officers, and RCMP are taking part in, and if they see a kid or youth like wearing their bike helmet while riding their bike, or wearing a life jacket when they're out on the lake, something like that, showing positive, safe behavior, we can give them one of these positive tickets and recognize them as a super kid. And these tickets have 4 free coupons, and oh my gosh, I can remember what they are. A free pita from Pita Pit, 15 tokens at the arcade, a free youth pass to the Bandits game, and a free youth pass to the rec center. So they're some pretty good prizes there. On other notes, our car seat clinics at the fire hall here in Brooks have been going really well. We've had some people drive in from the county, which has been really awesome. Obviously, it's been a little bit modified because we have to wear PPE and stuff like that, but people are still coming in for those, which is great. Moving on to a social media aspect of it, Safe Communities has continued to be really engaged on social media to try and reach out to everybody during COVID. So we have our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, and we just made a TikTok account, if anyone knows what that is, to try and reach out to more of a younger population. We're trying to engage people because I have been told that Facebook is not for young people anymore, and I still use Facebook a lot. So I know where I stand now, but we're going to try and get some officers getting on there, obviously trying to engage youth and kids and let them know that officers are there to protect you, and they are positive members of the community too, and they're not people to be feared. But in terms of that, we've actually seen that lately. We've had a couple more kids come to our Brooks detachment and want to meet officers, want to see cop cars, all that stuff. So that's kind of nice. It's a nice break in the day for an officer to go out and chat with some kids, and it's nice that kids are not afraid of us. But moving forward on that, we, in an effort to kind of engage more of the population in the county and in the city, we have, for the past month or so, been on the radio every Friday and some Saturdays with different safety messaging, different crime prevention messaging. because I know that not everyone uses social media. So every week we will have a different officer on talking about a way to be like how to prevent being victimized by car theft. I know one of our upcoming topics is fraud prevention and stuff like that. So we're really excited about that. Moving forward to mental health initiatives, before COVID, I was speaking to some people from Alberta Health Services about some efforts that we could put into place. We're actually in the process of rescheduling that meeting right now, just so we're not stepping on any toes, and we're gonna kind of have a joint effort. But Bike Rodeo 2020, the community bike rodeo and school bike rodeos were unfortunately canceled this year, but in place of that, we used the funds for the bike rodeo to purchase extra bike helmets that the peace officers and the RCMP officers can hand out to kids that may not have one, which we've actually given out quite a few already, so that's really exciting. Yeah, that was another thing. We also posted a bunch of videos and stuff like that about how to maintain your bike, how to do bike registration if it ever gets stolen, how to wear your bike helmet properly, and we got a lot of engagement on those, which was great. On to Rural Crime Watch. I forget if this is included in my last report. We have a new alert system for Brooks and District Rural Crime Watch, which we've had a lot of success with. I know in the coming months we will be implementing a yearly membership fee just for the cost of the alert system, but it accommodates everybody's needs a lot better because you can either get a phone call, an email, or a text, and it's instant, and the officers have been a lot more engaged. I know we've only sent out, I think, one alert, but there hasn't been, at least with our Brooks detachment, there actually hasn't been a lot to send out alerts for in the rural area, which is a good thing, but we're excited to continue to use that alert system. Boating and lake safety, this is something that we're all really excited about right now because the Brooks detachment actually just got a new patrol boat that we are going to be utilizing mainly on Lake Newell. We've been out on patrol since the 14th, and basically we're going out there with super kids tickets for kids that are wearing life jackets, but we're also doing safety checks to make sure everyone has enough life jackets on board and that there aren't people in those little dinghies that are going way past the swimming area and going out to the lake, because that's not allowed. There's other safety requirements as soon as you leave that swimming area that you need to comply with. So we're trying to make sure that everyone is following the safety measures as necessary to try and prevent any more tragedies this summer. But we're very excited about that. We're excited to have a police presence out at the lake. Obviously that's where a big chunk of our population is in the summertime. But crime mapping, the Bassano and Brooks detachment crime maps, I'm not sure if everyone has ever checked those out, but those are back to being updated daily now. You can access them on the County of Newell website and the City of Brooks website, and it shows you, I think it is break-and enters, car thefts, mischief, all those kind of things will show you whereabouts they're happening, when they're happening, kind of gives you a little more of an idea of what's happening in your own community, which is really great. Aside from that, the only other thing is I am supposed to put an update in my report here about the Brooks detachment about how we're doing service-wise. We are asking that anyone that has anything to do at the detachment, whether it be fingerprinting, criminal record checks, anything like that, that they call first. And in the report, the number is included. We're going to be posting it on Facebook. It's going on the radio tomorrow, just because there's a lot of things that you don't even have to physically come into the detachment for, and we want to keep the physical contact to a minimum, but we are still carrying on business as usual. We still can do collision statements, criminal record checks, fingerprinting, all that stuff. We just don't want you to have to come into the detachment if you don't have to. But that is about it for my report.
Thanks, Kendra. Any questions? Kelly and Ellen?
Kendra, just picking up on something that you said, this boat is mainly for Lake Newell, so it won't be sent out to, say, Crawling Valley or any other water bodies in the county?
So we're actually in conversation about that. I was hoping this afternoon, because one of our, I don't know what you would call this, but one of our practices with the boat is that we are keeping it at the fire station in Brooks. And I know it was a thought to keep it at the marina at Lake Newell, but we don't want to because there might be other bodies of water that we want to go and patrol. So I know that that's definitely on the agenda, but today we are going to be discussing when that's going to be, which I guess areas we're going to be considering for patrols. I know mainly it's Lake Newell because it's pretty busy. That's where a lot of our drownings have been, but there are other bodies of water that deserve some attention as well. So hopefully I'll have an update for that in the coming months, but hopefully this will go into action in the next week or so. But
Hi,
yeah, it's not
Kelly,
just for,
if you can hear me, it's Bruce from Brooks here.
there we go.
Hi. I chimed in, but I don't know why I'm here. I think Sebastian and Kendra have talked about everything I was going to talk about. But I've got Rob Harms with me, the acting ops NCO, and he's going to give a little bit of a blurb about the boat. But after you're done with Kendra there, I'll chime in and just give my brief report.
No, that sounds excellent, Bruce. Welcome. Ellen, you had another quick question?
Yes, a wonderful report, Kendra. Thank you. My question is, now the alert system, is that only for the Crime Watch members, or does everyone gets an alert?
So anyone can get it, but you do have to be a member with the Royal Crime Watch, just because when you become a member, you give your name, your municipality, and your I guess your preferred method of contact, and I have to register it into our alert system so that you can receive those notifications. It's not something that you can, I guess, like go online and just press sign up. Like I have to put you into the system. And because obviously the alert system costs an annual fee, that is why we are hopefully going to be putting in a membership fee. But anyone can become a member, anyone in the whole county of Newell. It does cover the whole county of Newell. Yeah, anyone can become a member. And yeah, I know we've only sent out one alert, like I said, but that's a good thing because there's not a whole bunch going on in the county.
So, Kendra, how do residents go about getting their name into the system? Is there a phone number or a website or?
So I'm going to be working to get that out there a little bit more because I know there is a Royal Crime Watch Facebook page. I'm not in charge of it, but I'm going to reach out to the admins on that. You can reach out to, there's an email, a phone number, and our Facebook page. I know that, for example, at the Bow Slope auction, we have like actual business cards and little pamphlets and stuff like that we are going to have available that have all of that contact information on it. But we are going to obviously be going out on Facebook more. But there are lots of people that live in rural areas that don't have social media, so it's going to be a lot of in-person and physical and leaving cards, places, and stuff like that to get the word out. But yeah, there is an email and a phone number that I will be giving out a lot that you can reach out to.
Tracy?
Thank you.
Good morning, Kendra. Lots of action you got going on. That's wonderful. Just wondering, you seem to be reaching out in a lot of different areas for advertising. Do you do print advertising as well? I'm thinking along the lines, some of the county residents maybe aren't big Facebook users, or do you look at like the Bassano Times, the Bulletin, those kind of print medias too for some of this? Like I'm thinking the Rural Crime Watch, like how do we get that out to all our residents about the new membership and the new transmission systems going on? So that's great.
Yeah, so every once in a while we actually do get in the Brooks Bulletin, and now that I've had a chance to kind of cement down the process for the radio ads every week, I am going to start looking into, I know Prairie Post has been really good about keeping us out there, Brooks Bulletin sometimes, but I do want to get out to the other municipalities for the newspapers and stuff like that. It's been on the agenda, but it's upcoming. But that's definitely a priority, because you're right, there's a lot of people that is their main method of keeping up to date on things, and it would be a great way to reach out, especially to the rural citizens. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a full-time job just trying to get a hold of everybody.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Kendra. We will move on to Bruce.
Good morning, Council. Thanks for having me. I've also got, like I said, Rob Harms here. He's our acting operations NCO, and Rob's going to touch base with you a little bit about the boat and what we have in place for water safety this summer. So we're excited about that. I'm not going to go into too much more detail. Like I said, Sebastian and Kendra have provided a lot of great information. So I'll quickly touch on the stats for Brooks. overall, looking at the stats, we're doing really great in the county. Crime is down. That being said, property crime is up. Break and enters are up over this quarter last year. Only if we look at the physical numbers last year, this time, the quarter we had 11 break and enters. This quarter we have 12. So we're kind of on par with last year, but still, rural property crime continues to be that hot spot that we need to keep our eye on. I think I've spoken before about our detachment GIS unit being involved with the rural crime reduction unit and also Medicine Hat Alert, and together with surrounding detachments, there is a ongoing working group that is working on the rural crime aspect of things, like Sebastian spoke to, especially the wire thefts and the oil field site B&Es. Those are concerning to us. So we are actively engaged and working on that, and we do know some of the players, and so I won't get into too much detail about that, but it is being addressed. So moving on, a couple things I want to address with council. COVID-19, as Kendra mentioned, we continue to do business by phone and email. We're not open. Our front door isn't open as of yet. The reason that is a few different things. Staffing levels with our municipal employees we have one employee that's away right now, so with reduced, and also with COVID-19, we're, like Kendra properly said, we're trying to limit the face-to-face exposure with people. I guess what's concerning for us at this point now, when we take a sober look at things, the numbers in Calgary are starting to rise again. We haven't seen that here, but certainly we don't want to see that here. So we're still taking a very proactive approach and being cautious. And we have found that a lot of the business that we did conduct face-to-face, getting done quite efficiently through email and through the telephone. So we are still providing all the services that we did pre-COVID. I guess we're just doing business differently. So I'll keep you posted on the opening of the front door when we do accept people back into the building. But so far, what we're doing is working, and we haven't received any complaints from the public that it's not. So I feel positive about that. Manpower-wise, we're up to strength. We have a couple of new members transferring into the detachment in August. Constable Carmichael, she is coming from a drug unit in Ontario, in Toronto, and so she brings it with her a wealth of that side of the house of drug enforcement and intelligence gathering. She'll be a welcome member to the detachment. The other member we have coming is Constable Monteo. He's a Spanish member. He hails from South America. He's presently up in Peace River Detachment, and he's transferring down to Brooks. He brings with him, I believe he speaks 4 different languages, so he'll definitely be an asset to our detachment here and our engagement with the Spanish community, which is always growing in the Brooks area. So we look forward to him coming. Another piece I want to quickly touch on is community engagement, and I think Reeve Molly remembers we met with the ethnic leaders kind of back in I think it was early April, if my memory is right. The meeting, we had a proactive meeting with them after the BLM movement kind of took off in the States and was starting to wind up here in Canada, and the issues around the behavior of the police. I thought it was important to engage those groups to get a gauge on where we're at in Brooks with our relations between those communities and the police. So what we learned was our relationship is good. However, those relationships can be taken advantage of, and they need, like any positive relationship, you need to put effort into those relationships. And so one of the big things that came out of that meeting was community engagement. and how we utilize our visible and minorities members in the community, how they engage with the youth. So an initiative we've taken up here at the detachment is we're creating a separate unit, and it's we haven't thought of a name yet, but it's going to be a community response unit, which is an appropriate name, I guess. And this unit's going to be composed of positions that we already have, but we're going to bring them together as one unit. So we're going to bring together our domestic violence position. We're going to bring together our school resource officer position. We're going to bring Kendra Sieben in as our Safe Communities facilitator. And then we're going to have a corporal in charge of that unit. And that unit is going to be responsible for nothing but community engagement and community welfare. So I think we all understand how youth in the schools, domestic violence at home, how that ties into youth, how our relationships as a community between ethnic groups, and how we learn to respect each other and we learn to work with each other in a community. These are all intertwined, and all of these things taken as a kind of a holistic approach leads to a vibrant and a healthy community. So that's what I'm working towards on the police side of things. I'm excited about it. I think that it's the right approach to take for any community, regardless of this BLM movement or not. That's just how things should work. So I hope to have that kind of formalized by the fall. September, I don't know if I'll have it done by then, but hopefully by October it's up and running. I'm going to touch on mental health for a minute because that also ties into this unit. We had Rob and myself had a teleconference with community mental health last week. And they are very interested in working with the police to tackle the mental health challenges that we have in the community, specifically with people in crisis and response to those people. And so they're very excited about partnering with us to develop strategies of how to proactively deal with people in mental health crisis if we have individuals that have ongoing mental health issues that are frequently dealt with by the police. And again, I think we've seen there's been a lot of concern in the media about welfare checks and how the police deal with mental health people in crisis. So again, we're looking at this from a point of let's bring in the experts, let's have them working with us, and let's try and develop, when we can, the best possible responses for a healthy outcome for the clients we deal with. So that's ongoing, and I'm also excited about that. I think we're scheduled to have another meeting with them next month, Rob? I think it's next month. We're going to follow up with them. Again, you know, on the flip side of that, it comes down to resources and dollars and cents, especially on the healthcare side, because, I mean, I think we all know the kind of financial shape they're in right now. But I'm excited about that. So, and just to touch on Kendra Sieben and that Safe Community Facilitator part that the county is involved in with the cost sharing with the city. I think from listening to Kendra's report, we can see Kendra is a very valuable resource to not only the RCMP, but the community at large. Kendra is a person, you can tell from her report, she's very vibrant and full of energy and goes about 1,000,000 miles an hour. I find it hard to keep up with her too. So I'm very happy to have her as a resource, and she's going to be a great part of this unit that we have going. So that's it. So the last thing I'm going to touch on is the county. Always in the summer, what concerns us is water safety, because it's kind of been year over year that we've had a drowning or something on one of our bodies of water. So I'm going to introduce Rob Harms. He's going to talk about our new boat that we got and we have operational, and how we're going to use it and where we're going to use it. And I'll turn it over to Rob.
Thanks, Bruce. Hi, folks, and thanks for letting me talk about this. As Kendra indicated, and Sergeant McDonald here, we did get a new boat. And in fact, the process of getting that boat started almost 2 years ago. And how it came about is just like Bruce said. Unfortunately, this area has seen, you know, a variety of accidents on the waterways in our area, mostly on Lake Newell. And that's everything from stranded boaters, flipped and capsized boaters, to unfortunately even some fatalities on the lake. From what I've seen, a lot of that had to do with some bad choices and maybe some lack of necessary equipment. So Brooks Attachment did take possession of a 20-foot patrol boat on June 30th. It's not brand new. We actually got it transferred down from High Prairie, but it is a great boat. It's in great condition, and we actually put it into service on July 9th. Now, July 9th is only a couple weeks ago. We've actually had that boat on the water several times, doing proactive patrols and engaging with the community. Our whole goal here is basically to encourage safety and encourage good decisions of people on the waters, and we're doing that through proactive patrols. And when we're doing those proactive patrols, we're basically trying to educate people. If there's non-compliance, say with safety equipment or something else, we're trying to gain their compliance. And then as a last resort, we'll enforce what we have to do. But that's kind of our goal out on the lake. And with that said, we want people to have a good time out there. So we're also encouraging that. When we're out on the waters, we're checking boaters for sobriety. We're checking to make sure that they have the proper pleasure craft license. We're checking vessels for the mandatory safety equipment, and we're making recommendations often related to safety, even if they're not so much regulated. And that comes down to people making good decisions and things like that. So in our process here, this has actually turned into a full-blown program. We've engaged Kendra with Safe Communities, who's dove right into this. She's actually been out on the boat with us, you know, helping us, you know, deal with the people out on the lake. She's issued some positive tickets to people like, you know, young kids and youth that are wearing life jackets and making those good decisions. And we're getting some really good feedback from it. In fact, we've been on the radio, and Sandra with the local media is actually doing a story on the program as we speak, and I think she's actually coming out with us this weekend. So that's kind of the a little bit of an update about the boat and the boat program that we're running, and we are excited about it. And I honestly feel this is one of those things where we are having direct and immediate impacts on the waters, because you know, we've seen lots of people that are in full compliance and making those good decisions out there, but right away we've also encountered people that are maybe not in compliance, in other words, not wearing life jackets or having life jackets, and maybe not making good decisions. So we are, in my opinion, having immediate effects out there. Does anybody have any questions about the boat or the boat program?
Thanks, Rob. Questions, Ellen?
Yes, Rob, I have a question for you. Now, does a life jacket have to be worn physically, or does it just have to be in the boat while people are on the water?
So, for the most part, you do not have to wear the life jacket, okay? But when people are operating a vessel or in a vessel, there has to be a life jacket for every person that's on that vessel, okay? And then there's requirements for the life jacket, which often we'll go into as well. You know, it has to be an approved life jacket. It has to be, you know, the proper fit for that person. There is an exception to the rule, and I actually just learned about this one. For the longest time on stand-up paddle boards, which are very, very common right now, you always have to have a life jacket with you, not necessarily wearing it. I've just
the residents were
those regulations have changed, and in fact, not only do paddle boarders have to have it, they have to wear that life jacket when they're out navigating in the lakes, okay? And what that means is, perhaps if they're in a swimming area, you know, and playing on the board or whatever, maybe not in that case do they have to have that life jacket, but definitely when they set out and start navigating beyond swimming areas and so on.
Thank you.
Other questions? Tracy?
My question just, I don't know if this applies to or not, but when you're out with your boating, are you involved with the preventative of the aquatic mussels, invasive species of the mussels? And do you, would you have the education pamphlets and stuff that you can be sharing with boaters as well as you're doing that? Are you involved?
We don't get too involved in that. The comments I have on that is one of the first things we did with our boat is we brought it to EID to have it inspected and to make sure that it's in compliance. In the times that we've been out there, like police presence does a wonderful thing when you're at the lakes, including before we get in the water. When a police truck pulls into the parking lot with a boat, right away we see, sometimes people change their behavior. And one thing I notice is we have people that aren't, trying to bypass the checkpoints for the mussel checks, and they're doing other things like getting the required equipment out of their trucks and putting it in the boat and things like that. And I suspect there's things happening that I'm not seeing, such as alcohol, maybe, rather than it being put on board, it's being left at the campsite and stuff like that. So. But as far as the mussel programming and inspection of it, we don't get involved in that. Maybe the other thing I will throw in, I don't hear any other questions, but I know it came up earlier with Kendra. Where is that boat going to be used? Right now, it is part of the Brooks fleet, and we're definitely using it in the Brooks detachment area and whatever waterway we need to use it in. Lake Newell is definitely a focus there, but the boat and its services is also available to our surrounding detachments, including Bassano, and without a doubt, lakes in Bassano and perhaps in other detachment areas, we'll be seeing that boat as well.
And further on that as well, I will be contacting them in a couple of days or so to discuss when that can be possible. That if we do have a member who is trained to be on it with them. So I also wanted to, sorry to interrupt, before I go is to mention that for our detachment, we are open certain hours, but the same thing, we're requiring people to call before, and we are increasing cleaning protocols. The comment is, as Sergeant McDonald alluded to Kendra, is how impressive and amazing she's been for our detachment as well. She's helped us quite a bit with some of our programs, such as the rural property crime report with one of our members teaching that, as well as the Safe Kids program. So I wanted to say that is a great asset as well to us as well here at Bassano. Thanks.
Thanks, Sebastian. Lionel.
Getting back to the life jacket regulations. So manual boats like canoes and kayaks, regulations there, are they required to wear their life jacket, or is it okay just to have it with them?
Yeah, it's every vessel size has different requirements under the Act. Canoes, I'd have to double check, but canoes and kayaks and stuff definitely have to have their life jackets. I'm not sure right now if they actually have to wear them. I'd have to look it up because there is so many different regulations that pertain to different size vessels and so on.
Other questions from council before I let our three guests wind things up? We do have public hearings today, so we'll have to move on.
One last thing for a piece of information I just thought I'd bring up because some questions have surrounded it. We are coming out with some brochures and paper resources that tell you what you need to have on board, depending on the different craft that you are driving on the water. I am in the process of making those right now, and we should have them. I'm hoping to have at least the boating one ready for tomorrow morning when we are out at Lake Newell. But we are going to have various ones for boating, swimming, that kind of stuff, numbers you can call, and the regulations for what you're doing. So that is something you guys should see come out, and those questions can be clarified for the general public, I guess.
Thank you. Bruce, Rob, anything else?
That's it, Your Worship. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for both being with us, and Sebastian and Kendra as well. What time are you out at the lake tomorrow?
I don't know if Rob's going to answer this, but we're hoping, I'm not sure patrol boat wise, but me and another officer are hoping to set up a table there tomorrow afternoon, when I guess the traffic in and out of there is going to probably get a little bit more busy because it'll be hotter and it's Friday. So we're going to have an information table set up there, probably with the EID truck that does the checks on the boats and stuff like that. And we're just going to be handing out some information and doing a couple safety checks on some people, and just be having that presence out there.
Yeah, and sorry guys, I just cut out there. It's Rob here again. And the boat will be out tomorrow. It's actually probably going to be hitting both the Rolling Hills Reservoir and Lake Newell, and that'll probably start mid-afternoon somewhere in that area.
Oh, thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the sun. We'll move on to our public hearings. Back on our agenda to item 7.2, and we need a motion to move into public hearing. Anne Marie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And so we'll turn it over to, and I don't believe we have anyone here from the public, so I will turn it over to Jeff, I think it is. Or no, it's Maria.
I'll take this one over, sure. Thank you. Okay, this is Bylaw 1995-20, a land use amendment that we're taking to public hearing today. The purpose of this application is to redesignate the subject lands from agriculture to small holdings to facilitate a proposed subdivision. A portion of the proposed subdivision is cut off by the canal and the canal right-of-way, and that portion of the subdivision does not contain the farmstead, which is why it needs to be changed to small holdings. So the location of this, sorry, I guess that's important. It's southeast of 221515, so it's located in Division 4, approximately 3 miles east of Scandia. All the adjacent lands are in the agricultural land use district. We circulated this land use amendment to adjacent landowners and affected parties, and we have not received any comments or concerns. And it is recommended by staff that second and third reading be given to this bylaw.
Thanks, Maria. Questions, anyone? No concern. Oh, Kelly?
Just a question, Maria. I see it's 7.04 oh, sorry, 17 acres. Okay, that makes more sense. I misread that. So 17 acres. Any guess on how many parcels might be proposed in this subdivision?
Well, the changing to the land use, this land use amendment changing to the small holdings district makes it hard to separate into smaller parcels. And I can't, sorry, I don't, let me just see here. They're proposing only one subdivision and like that as a whole. And the reason they want that cutoff piece is because they are selling the farmland, and the purchaser does not want that cutoff piece because it's not useful for his operation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we would need a motion to move out of public hearing. Kelly will move us out. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And that'll take us to the bylaws. The first one being for second and third reading of this one that we just heard, the public hearing. No, that's not right. Yes, it is. So second and third reading. Second reading, someone want to move that? Wayne moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Third reading, third and final reading, Anne Marie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And we'll move on to bylaw 1996-20, which is motion for first reading of something that we'll hear more about.
Okay, thank you. This is a land use amendment for changing from rural business and agriculture, a split zone, to rural industrial. This parcel may seem familiar to you. It is located right close to the hamlet of Scandia in Division 4. It's Lot 1, Block 2, Plan 17-12-141 in the northwest of 1915-15. The applicant is Trevor Sandow and the Independent Crop Inputs. So this parcel was recently changed to rural business and agriculture to allow for independent fertilizer business. Unfortunately, the applicant has now, I guess fortunately, he wants to expand. He wants to add a warehouse. Unfortunately, the original land use amendment we did restricted him from building where he wanted to, because he needs to follow the setbacks that are set out by the Agri-Chemical Warehousing Standards Association. So while he is far enough from the residence, because of where that boundary was, the measurement set out by that association didn't quite work out. So we talked with him and we decided that the best zoning for that parcel is rural industrial. There is a dwelling on that parcel right now, and the intent is in the future that that dwelling become an office for the building. And the rural industrial land use district does allow for a dwelling as an accessory to the business, so it works out pretty well. So staff is recommending that first reading be given to bylaw 1996-20.
Any questions? All right, could we get a motion? Tracy moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. So bylaw 1997-20, also a first reading requirement.
Yes, thank you. So the bylaw was recently updated this morning. I apologize for that. I didn't give you a lot of notice on that, but we did expand on the bylaw just to make everything more clear. The purpose of this land use amendment is to accommodate a private school and a potential worship center in the hamlet of Patricia in Division 3. So the adjacent lands are in public service and hamlet residential. The lot is currently zoned hamlet residential, and there is a dwelling on the parcel that the applicant would like to renovate to accommodate first the private school and then down the road a potential worship center. So our current land use bylaw does not allow for a private school and a worship center to be located on the same lot. We've discussed this internally at length, and we think that this is maybe a bit short-sighted in our current land use bylaw, which is why we need to change to the direct control district, because it will allow council to make those accommodations if they see that that would work well for that parcel of land. So the direct control district, like I said, is to give council the flexibility and discretion to approve a use or development, provided it would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of the neighboring properties. We need to make sure that this has legal and physical access to a development municipal roadway. So in speaking with the applicant, the proposed school will accommodate grades 1 to 10. It will include between 60 and 20 students, and there are 3 teachers. The transportation to the school will be private, so they are expecting 4 to 6 personal vehicles accessing the parcel for student drop-off and pickup per day. The hours of the school will run Monday to Friday from 8:45 to 3:15. Then I also discussed the potential worship center religious assembly with the applicant. So for that, should that be developed in the future, there will be approximately 50 people attending that center on Sunday mornings. The service starts at 7 a.m. and runs until about 12:30. They are estimating there to be about 15 cars in and out on Sunday morning. Then they'll also provide a prayer service one Wednesday a month and a hymn on one Sunday a month in the evenings. So there is also in the land use bylaw under Schedule 4 use standards, public or separate schools and private schools has a list of standards that they need to meet in order to be granted a development permit. One of them is that sorry, I'm trying to find the exact wording, that access to the lot be from a paved road. And so they will, and the applicant is aware that this road will need to be constructed from Railroad Avenue in Patricia. And they will also have to connect to Hamlet Services. And Municipal Services has said that that is an ability that they have. So it is recommended by staff that first reading be given to bylaw 1997-20.
Questions? Anne Marie?
Maria, how big was that parcel?
That parcel is 2 hectares, so just under 5 acres.
Wayne?
How is water and sewer going to be provided into that area?
So there is the ability to connect. There's a current residence there that is connected to the water and sewer system for the hamlet of Patricia. So that's already installed. onto the lot.
Is it adequate?
Jeff, can I let you take that one?
Yeah, for sure. The water sewer connection at that location is a typical connection, just as any other of the lots in Patricia. I don't see that being a limiting factor to the operation as it was described by the applicant.
Kelly?
How old is the now residence? How old a property is or building is that?
Oh, Kelly, that's a good question. I believe it's 70s or 80s, and maybe Councillor Phillipson can correct me there. I think that there is some work that needs to be done on the property. There needs to be some significant renovations completed, but the applicant is aware of that and they're ready to make it beautiful.
I remember the people building it, so I'm guessing it was late 80s.
Kelly?
So then at what point in this process do we ensure that there's enough off-street parking? I would think that we would be remiss in not ensuring that there is enough parking at this church/school.
Yes, that's a good point. We did discuss that as well. And because this lot is 5 acres, it's quite a large lot. There is a lot of room to accommodate parking.
Yeah, but I think you missed my question. At what point do we prescribe that?
We would take a look at that as part of the development permit application for the school and or the development permit application for the school site. As part of this direct control district, they will still need to follow with the general standards in the land use bylaw that relate to parking requirements and the use specific standards. So they would be mandated at the time of development permit application to ensure that it's suitable and it meets the land use bylaw.
And so the whole area, the whole 5 acres will be under direct control.
Right. That's correct.
Any other questions before we give this a first reading to head it on to Clarence?
So is this the only school we have that's under direct control?
It is right now. It is because of the potential of a religious assembly. The applicant wanted, the ability to grow. So right now, a private school is only able to be located on a public service lot, and a religious assembly can be in an agriculture district, a hamlet business district. There's a few different districts that a religious assembly can be located on, but we do not have a district in our land use bylaw where a private school and a religious assembly together can be located.
Kelly?
So getting back to the water and sewer services, typically we just have to provide service to the curb or to the property's edge. What size of lines do we have running through the front of the property to service that? Because there is going to be more call on this once they get the school going, right?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just bring it up here. Our water service line in Patricia actually runs directly through that property. So we have easement across that property, and it's an 8-inch water line. So there is plenty of service. I mean, it's right at the top end of the system, almost immediately adjacent to the distribution center. So there is plenty of water at that location.
And then the sewer, you've obviously had that conversation because this council has had that conversation, right? So no concerns there?
As far as capacity, there's no concerns with the capacity that the sewer can take. The Patricia sanitary system has a lot of capacity built into it, as well as its treatment system and the size of the lagoon based on the size and population of the hamlet. So as far as a capacity issue, no, there's no concerns with that regard. As council is aware, previously, a couple months ago back, I brought an RFD for an inline camera inspection on the Patricia sanitary system. I do still wait on that to come back to us so we can put a plan together, possibly for future budget years to look at improving that. But that's where our concerns lie, with the actual physical state of the pipe, not the capacity. The capacity is there. It's the infiltrations and intrusions into the line that are causing us the issues that need to be rectified, not for this development, but for the serviceability of the entire hamlet.
So the direct control is just because this is a rather unique situation. And that's usually when direct control becomes the best way to designate. Correct?
Yeah, and you know, just sorry to jump in here, Maria, but just to add a little bit to what Maria said, we have discussed this in length, and looking through the land use bylaw, it's interesting what can and cannot be accommodated between private and separate schools, religious assemblies, land use districts, and I mean, on an agricultural parcel, our current land use bylaw allows for a private or separate school and a religious assembly. However, not a private, only public or separate, not a private school and a religious assembly. So it is a very unique situation, and I think we've talked about things like this and the flexibility in the past, and we just talked about a split zoning that didn't work out for us, that we had to go back and rezone to rural industrial. So I believe that you know, we're charting these things and we're listing these things in preparation to do what we need to do with this land use bylaw to make it a more usable and user-friendly document. And you know what makes sense. I don't believe direct control districts are great in a lot of situations. Most of our direct control districts right now are used for mobile home parks, and then basically other situations that have sprung up that don't really relate to things that we can or want to accommodate. And again, that's the beautiful thing about the direct control district, is it puts in council's hands the ability to set the regulations and standards of what happens on that parcel, in lieu of the event that we have a district that would fit the intended use of the applicant.
Further questions? Anne-Marie.
I'm willing to make the motion for a first reading of this bylaw.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Jeff and Maria. I think that's everything for today. And brings us to noon hour. And I think the only thing we have left on our agenda is our 1 o'clock delegation. And so we can adjourn until then, reconvene at 1 o'clock for the elemental solar presentation, if that's what we can call it. All right, then, 1 o'clock.